good Lord. Why do you keep coming back? I mean, do you really like getting scared that much? Well, let's see if you still feel the same way after these stories. Our first tale of terror comes from a young mother that is having some odd experiences with her doors. She thinks that the doors in my house are being weird.
The door to my bedroom used to randomly throw itself open, but recently it's almost become responsive. A couple of months ago, my friend was over watching my toddler downstairs while I took a therapist Zoom call in my room upstairs with the door shut. I heard the knob jiggle a little as it is very loose, probably not original to the house, which was built in the 1800s, but very old. I stopped and looked over my shoulder at the door. Nobody came in. It jiggled again and slowly turned, and I heard the metal thing slide and the door popped open, and it stayed on the frame. Feeling awkward, I said, "Did you need something?" And the door opened just about an inch. I was unable to see in the dark hall, but worried it was my daughter. I said, "It's okay, you can come in." The door flew open, bumping into the pile of laundry against the wall. Nobody was there. My therapist, who was not as freaked as me, said maybe your adult friend is hiding on the stairs. Not something she'd do, but I looked anyway and nobody there. I went down and asked her, and she said they hadn't left the living room, and my dogs were still in the yard where they stayed during her visits. A few nights ago, the same doorknob was rattling around like crazy while we were in bed. My dog sometimes gets on her back legs to paw the knob, so I sighed, and without looking away from the door, asked my husband, "Would you let Maggie in?" And the door flew open. Nobody was there. No dog, no person. A week ago was the anniversary of the previous owner's passing. He was a friend. We keep every upstairs door, but the main bedroom, closed during the day, 4 doors. I came upstairs and every single door was open. I feel crazy being creeped out by doors, but I am.
Ma'am, don't worry about your doors. It's okay. You should just be worried about whatever the bloody hell is opening them. Next, we have one from an OP that wants to know if it's possible that her neighborhood ghost attached itself to her.
My neighborhood is haunted and I'm the ghost's favorite. This is my first time posting, but I wanted to see what thought other people had on this topic because my family doesn't believe that our house and neighborhood is haunted. This might be a long post, but if anyone could put some input on this, I would appreciate it. So backstory: before my neighborhood was built, there was a family that lived in the main house in a section of my neighborhood. They had a daughter who passed away on the property before it was turned into a neighborhood. When I was growing up, I was always terrified to sleep in my room. I always felt like someone was watching me. I used to be so scared I would sometimes sleep in my parents' room on their floor. When I was 9 or 10, I was sleeping on their bedroom floor and I randomly woke up and saw a little girl cuddling my mom with a doll. The doll was an old-timey looking glass doll, identical to the one we have in our basement, and she was just staring right at me. My mom was sleeping on her side and was facing me, and it looked like the girl was just spooning her. I obviously woke up my mom and screamed, but no one was there. My parents said it was probably just my imagination. Jumping a little in time, after that I never saw the little girl again, but as I got older, maybe 16 or 17, I noticed my stuff would go missing. For example, I had a necklace that I loved and one night I took it off and I woke up and it was gone. I asked my mom if she took it or had seen it. She said no, and so I just assumed I misplaced it. Well, 6 months later the same necklace was placed perfectly on my carpet. I asked my mom if she put it there and she told me she hadn't seen that necklace in 6 months. It happened again my freshman year of college. I came back home from break and had my mom wash my favorite jersey. After she washed it, she said she put it on my bed, but when I looked it was just gone. A year later it was hanging in my closet like it had been there the whole time, but I know for a fact no one in my family had touched it or seen it in a year. My TV would turn on to random channels even though the remote was on a shelf next to my bed. Lights turning on and off. There were more things that happened I can talk about later, but no one else in my family experienced stuff. I've talked to a lot of other people in my neighborhood who have heard a little girl giggling or crying, footsteps that sounded like a child, and they all said it wasn't their child, or they don't have any. That was the only things my neighbors had experienced, only small easy things they can brush off. I don't know why though this ghost has attached herself to me, no one else has experienced anything close to what I had. If anyone has any idea on why, that would be great. I could make a whole other post on all of the weird, out-of-the-blue passings that have happened to people who live in the same cul-de-sac as the original farmhouse that still is there today. If anyone wants to hear them, just let me know.
Well, it sounds to me like she's a little girl lost, and she latched onto you because the first time you seen her, you were around the same age. Of course, that really doesn't excuse her for borrowing your stuff without asking. Up next, we have one from a 911 operator that one night took a call that she won't soon forget. It's called Ghostly Woman on the Highway.
Last winter, I took a 911 call from a man at milepost 51 at 10:15 p.m., saying he saw a woman walking on the side of the road with a cane and a black coat northbound in the snow. This is a rural area between two small towns. The closest house was a few miles away. He was heading the opposite direction to work, or he would have stopped. He was worried because it was cold, and she seemed elderly, and there were no cars around. I had a deputy out with a one-vehicle accident a few miles south, so he said he would go check after the tow truck cleared his accident, and he opened the road again. A half hour later, I get another call from milepost 56 regarding the same lady walking in the snow northbound. This caller was a woman and said she doesn't pick up strangers but was concerned for this elderly lady because it was cold out and snowing. I called state police, and they had their own wreck at milepost 60 and had not seen any old lady walking in the snow. He said he would check when his wreck cleared. A half hour later, my deputy cleared his call and drove to MP 60, spoke to the state trooper, but never saw any old lady walking, no obvious footprints, or other evidence of any wrecks. We don't know where she came from or where she went.
Wow, that is pretty weird, ain't it? Next up, we have one from a pharmacy technician that has a shift that she probably wished she skipped. It's called a pharmaceutical grade ghost story.
While working as a pharmacy tech at a small pharmacy, I would sometimes have to stay after closing to help the pharmacist count certain meds. Nothing strange had ever happened there, except sometimes you feel like someone was standing behind you really close. A few other female employees experienced the same, but the guys never experienced it. On one of the late-night counts about an hour after the store closed, the pharmacist said, "Someone's in the store." I turned to face her and noticed she was staring at the security monitors. I looked closer, and sure enough, someone dressed in dark solid color clothes was walking down one of the aisles, stopped, and was just standing there. The pharmacist said to me, "Get him out of here. Every controlled substance in the safe is on this counter." My reaction, of course, was, "You go." After a quick back and forth, I got the gun I keep in my purse and put it in the pocket of my lab coat and went to get the mystery shopper out. All I could think was, how is someone here because the cashier's clean and make sure everyone is out before they leave. I went to the aisle where we had seen the person on, and nobody is there. I went up and down each aisle and checked behind the register counter, nothing. I made sure the door was locked and went back to the pharmacy. I told the pharmacist nobody was there, so she came out and we checked the entire store again together and found nothing. We went back to counting, and because the entire thing had me weirded out, I kept looking over at the monitors. Almost an hour went by and there he was again. I ran over to the counter and the guy was there. Only he didn't look solid, almost like an underpowered hologram projection. He had a horrified look on his face and was desperately shaking his head no. There was a really strange odor in the air. Not strange as in bad, just something unfamiliar I had never smelled before. The odor was something like a mixture of vanilla and a cleaning chemical, and it burned my nostrils. I backed away and ran to tell the lady I work with what I saw and found her on the phone with 911. We went to the front door to wait on police officers to arrive, and boy did they. 5 cars ended up coming. The police officers checked the store and told us nobody was there, so we showed them the video and all they said was strange, but we checked and the canines checked. Nobody's here. We put everything in the safe and left while the police were there to make sure we were safe. I went home freaked out about the whole thing and told my roommate. The next day, about 2 hours before I was due to be at work, the pharmacy manager called to tell me not to come to work for a couple days. The pharmacy had just been robbed and the tech and pharmacist on duty were attacked by a guy with a baseball bat, and he told the detectives he had cased the store the night before. To this day, I still believe the spirit, ghost, angel, whatever it was in the store that night was trying to protect us by warning that something bad was going to happen.
Well, I hope your two co-workers were okay, and that they caught the guy. Man, maybe that ghost should go haunt that dude for a while. Sounds to me like he'd have that coming. Wow, you're still here? You're braver than I thought. Well, let's see if your courage stays intact after our last story of the night. It's about a woman that owes her life to a ghost. It's called, My Life Was Saved by a Ghost.
My boyfriend of 5 years has crushed on me for probably 12 or 13 years. He was 2 grades below me and was a bad boy while I was popular and in all honors and college-level classes, so I wasn't aware he existed until I met him at my dad's business about 7 years ago. He apparently talked about me being his dream girl and was teased that it would never happen is why I mentioned this. So in 2009, he and his best friend, I'll call him Josh, were getting into pills due to Josh's grandfather being an amputee and unable to properly attend, or understand, hiding the medications, thus leaving large amounts of methadone, Klonopin, hydrocodone and such lying around. This was before the opiate crisis that has affected my generation deeply in the last 15 years. 2 days before Christmas 2009, Josh passed away in the bedroom that my boyfriend is currently staying in. It's a long story, but we moved back to our respective families because we were laid off during the pandemic and were in a bad wreck, losing the extra car. The room has never felt spooky, never anything strange about it. But I've had a few pranks pulled on me that we believe Josh does to basically congratulate my boyfriend on being with the woman he waited for. I've woken up to sticky notes completely covering my body, my drinks poured on the floor, and random objects moved right where I exit the bed so that I step on them first thing in the morning. I swear I've heard giggling. Each time I've angrily asked my boyfriend if he was messing with me, and I'm aware when he's lying. He always says no. We like to think this is Josh playing practical jokes, something he was known for. But this is nothing compared to what Josh did for me in 2017. It wasn't a prank, it saved my life. 4 years ago, I went into anaphylactic shock. I lost all ability to speak or move my lower body. I was upstairs with a curved and steep staircase separating me from my phone. I remember crawling to the stairs, knowing it could be fatal if I smashed into the wall that the stairs led to before the turn with very large, steep steps. I know I was extremely oxygen deprived, but I immediately saw Josh and 2 of my deceased best friends ascend the stairs and carry me to the living room couch with my nebulizer and cell phone. I called 911 but I had no voice. My friends were gone except Josh. He told me he was going to wake my boyfriend from the hammock in the back of my yard. And suddenly my boyfriend dreamed of his friend saying that I was in trouble. My boyfriend came running into the house and by this point, I was in real trouble. I no longer could use any part of my body, and no air came into my lungs when I inhaled. I remember thinking of my daughter and praying her father would navigate my loss to her and keep memories of me alive. He actually passed away in a freak accident 8 months ago, so now I'm fulfilling that for him, but I digress. I struggled to remain conscious, but I was fading. My boyfriend saw the 911 operator on the phone and my sweaty blue body. He told them he didn't think I was breathing, and by some absolute miracle there was an ambulance passing my neighborhood. The hospital and dispatch were 30 minutes away. This coincidence plus my boyfriend's sudden premonition that I was hurt saved my life. Josh and those EMTs saved my life. I remember the EMT asking my boyfriend if I had taken anything. I hadn't, and I thought of how Josh had passed. I was blabbering on about ghosts saving me after a large amount of epinephrine, so no wonder they thought I was high. The doctors and EMT were baffled at how I managed to get down those stairs or even stay alive long enough to get help. I had one bruise on my leg that was tiny. That was it. And the worst headache I've ever had. Turns out, I'm allergic to the latex in spray paint. I just told them I slid down the stairs, but it's not how I remember it. The weird thing is, I'd never met Josh when he was alive. I don't know how I recognized him or hallucinated him, but he looked exactly like the picture I was shown. I've had a lot of paranormal encounters, but my run-in with Josh saved my life and he never even knew me. So, thanks, Josh, for giving me more time on this earth, and I wish we had met many years before. I do hope he is resting peacefully, just periodically popping in to check on us.
You know what, I was all set to call him a D-bag for all the practical jokes and all, but I take it all back. He is a true hero. Josh, if you can hear me, you demand. Well, how's your courage holding up? I see you trembling a little bit. Well, do you know what might stop you from trembling? Hitting like, subscribe, and sharing this video. It'll really help us keep the ghosts at bay. And of course, if any of you have a story to share, or have any thoughts about our stories tonight, or if you have any suggestions on subjects for upcoming videos, or even just general thoughts about my channel, then by all means, drop me a line in the comments. But I do want to thank you for stopping by, and I hope the stories we told won't be giving you too many bad dreams. But if they do, then maybe you shouldn't run from them. After all, sometimes it's better to embrace your nightmares